Go tell the world about me. Jesus had been crucified. Then he came off that cross. When he was resurrected, he went and he met with the disciples. And he told them, because they were in doubt of what they were seeing in front of them, he said, I'm here, but I'm going. Your job now is to go finish the work I've started. Go tell the world about me so that one day I can come back and take you home. This song, I heard it as I was watching The Chosen. I'm sure many of you have watched this series. And I started crying. Go tell the world about me. I was dead, and now I live. I've got to go for a little while, but goodbye. It's not the end, my friends. Don't forget the things I have taught you. I've conquered death, and I hold the keys. Where I go, you will go someday too, but there's much to do before I leave. What is it? Losing everything. What is our commission? What is Jesus asked for us to do individually? I will say that we have the Bible. We know all the stories. We know how they start and we know how they end. And a lot of times we find ourselves in this daily process. We wake up, we read our Bible, we do a devotion, we go to school, to work, go to church, we act like we're a good human being. Sometimes we'll offer somebody help or offer to pray, and we're good to go. We've done all the things. We followed the 10 Commandments. We've done all the things. We should be good to go. But that's wrong. Because we do those things because we love Jesus. What God calls us to do is go tell the world about him. When a painter is commissioned to paint a picture, the person who commissions them knows that they already have at least the basic knowledge of what is needed to make that picture. See, God doesn't need somebody who is well-versed in the Bible. He doesn't need the pastor to only be the one that can go because he's read the Bible a few times from start to finish, or he knows all of the stories. I have found in my journey that the most powerful people to share Jesus are the people whose Jesus has changed their lives, who has completely made their life different. Those are the people who share Jesus in a way that somebody can't unhear the words that they're saying. I get this a lot. As I get older, I hear it more. I'm too old. Or I'm too young. I'm only 7, or I'm only 8. What do you want me to do? I would say, and I said it this afternoon in a meeting, if you're still breathing where you are breathing, God still has a purpose and a plan and a mission for you, meaning he's not done. He's not done. And until you take your last breath on this earth, he will not be done. When I first heard this song, I sat there and I cried because I thought a lot about what people say when they go to pass away. I remember my grandfather saying, as I was sitting beside him in his last few hours that he was talking, and he said, please love Jesus and tell people about him so that when he comes back, I can see you again. We take for granted every day that we wake up and we go to sleep. And we waste our days doing that, waking up, going to work, being annoyed at our coworkers or our people at school and being frustrated and going to sleep. But when you have very few moments left in life, you know what is important. And that is, who do I still need to tell about Jesus? I sat there at the deathbed of my grandfather, and people would just walk in his room and say, I'm in church today because your grandfather would come and pick me up. I'm in church today because your grandfather came and would fix stuff in my house and then bring me to church. And he's not the only one. We can all tell stories about various people in our lives who you can see that God has used them. For years, I struggled with what is my purpose? What is my mission? I settled on several years back that my mission must be to have a lot of children. For those of you who I'm seeing for the first time, because I've been traveling a lot, I have 9 children. And that is a mission. Don't get me wrong. It is something that I treasure very much. But I felt that that wasn't all. And I have prayed and I have looked and I have searched and I have done things. I have tried, but I had no idea what it was God was calling me to do. Then a crazy story started to be written. And I ended up landing in Cuba one day. Not a place you want to land for a vacation, to be really honest, unless you're in a fancy resort. But the rest of it isn't that great. As I was standing in Cuba, I realized why God had me here. Not here in Cuba, but here on this earth. Because you see, like Esther, each of us today were created for such a time as this. We may not yet know what our mission on this earth is. God may still be working on the story. But we have to be ready when he says, now, it's go time. This is why you're here. And I stood there and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt why I was here, why I was there. Today still, as the story is being written, it seems unbelievable to me. I can tell you when I get asked about what is going on in Cuba, the stories I say seem almost made up. Like if I wasn't there and knew firsthand that these things were happening, I would think that they are just fantasy, that they could not possibly be true. This past trip to Cuba, I arrived at the place where I would be speaking over the next few days. And this Haitian woman, now, Cuba is a very interesting Central American country. The original Cubans no longer exist on the island. They have been inhabited by Haitians, by Spaniards, by French, and by the traditional Latino culture coming over from other parts of Central America. Traditionally, they don't really go outside of their race. They stay pretty much, they marry within their race, they live within their race, but that doesn't mean they don't exist well with each other. So this Haitian woman comes running at me. I want to talk to the white lady. She begins to tell me that a lady had knocked on her door one afternoon and told about a white lady from America who was helping women, that she was sending down supplies to help them with their monthly cycles, and that this was going to change the lives of the women. She said this woman invited her to come to church, and that if she came to church over the next 3 weeks, she herself could have one of these. The Haitian lady agreed, and she went to church, and there she met Jesus. After 3 weeks, she kept going to church, and she was baptized a few days before I was down there to speak. She heard that the white lady would be in town. I got called that a lot while I was there. To translate better, it was the gringo. But the white lady would be in town and wanted to come. She was told that there was no room. The building that I was speaking in held 75 comfortably for a Latino culture, which meant you were still sitting on top of each other. And there was already about 100 women coming. She said, I don't care. I'm going to get myself there, and if I have to sit outside, which, now understand, please, at that time when we were there, it was about 110, 112 degrees. Hot. Like you couldn't exist without just pouring sweat. I don't care. I'm going to sit outside on the sidewalk and I'll listen. I want to hear what you have to say, but I want to tell you thank you. Now, sometimes it's hard for me to hear thank you because I realize that I was made for a time like this, that this is the purpose that God gave me, and the thank you belongs to him, not me. I simply showed up and did what he asked of me to do. So I hugged this lady and I said, no, you're not going to sit outside. If you have to sit right here, you can sit right here. But we're going to find you a place. My story of how God is using me to share Jesus in another country is unreal to me. Honestly, it is. I love traveling. We spend a lot of time in Central America. I had never experienced communism. I never want to live communism. I know that's a very real feeling for many of you in this room. It is not a good feeling to be in a country that is controlled 100% by a government who does not have your best interests at heart. However, when you see how Jesus is working in these countries and in these places, you see a Jesus so real to those around you that it changes your life. The experiences that they have change their everyday life, because without Jesus, they don't survive. I have, since I was a little girl, had favorite stories in the Bible. And throughout my life, I have grown with those stories. And they're the simple stories, to be really honest with you. We all know the stories, but Noah is one of those stories. And what I love about Noah is when you're a little kid, he seems like a hero. He built this boat that would float and hold all of these animals. How crazy is it that this guy built this massive boat? But then as I got older, I would start thinking, I wonder if he ever doubted himself in this process. I wonder if he ever said, God, I can't do this. It's never even rained, God. I wonder if when only 8 people got on that ark that day, if he felt like a failure. Did he say, God, what's one more year? Or after 120-ish years, what's another 20 years? Give me some more time. I wonder if he asked God, have I done everything you've asked me to do before that door closes? My question is, do you think Noah completed the mission God gave him successfully? Noah walked in favor with the Lord. The Bible tells us very clearly. Noah was only about 10 generations removed from Adam. So he had very real passed down knowledge of what Adam and Eve and the garden and all these things would have looked like and been like. He lived a long life. He was about 500 years old when he had his first child. Can you imagine? 500 years old. We don't even live to 100. And then God came to him and said, Noah, the world is wicked. They're horrible. I got to get rid of them all. I want you to build a boat that'll float, that's going to hold animals. I'm going to bring the animals, don't worry. You just build the boat and tell people about me. Noah did just that. People listened. People even professed that they believed in Jesus or in God. But still yet, nobody got on that boat. Nobody. Then God says, Noah, your job is done. Get your family and get on the boat. The animals came. The doors got closed. Now, let's be real. How many of you, by raise of hands, even if you would have said, no, I'm not getting on that boat, when those animals started parading down the street, getting on that big boat, who would not have been like, okay, maybe I need to follow and figure out what's going on inside that boat, right? Like we think that now because we know the end of the story. Once he got on the boat and that door was closed, 7 days. 7 days, nothing happened. People were making all kinds of fun of him, shouting, no, you're crazy. There's no rain. It's not going to rain. You built this big old boat for nothing. We're not sure what the animals are about, but you built the big old boat for nothing. And then it started raining. Now, at that moment, people realized, oh no, the crazy guy that built the boat, maybe he was right, but it was too late. The door had already closed. Matt and I were watching a documentary not too long ago about how different civilizations recorded a worldwide flood. And so as I was putting this sermon together a while back, I started to look at that. And there's over 220 civilizations and cultures that record a worldwide flood. Various different stories, various different reasons and outcomes. But most every civilization from ancient to modern times record a flood story. So, do you think Noah completed the mission God gave to him? Raise your hands if you think yes. Okay, anybody say a no? It's okay if you do. You don't have to go with everybody else. The commission that God gave to Noah is no different than the commission that he gives to us. God told Noah, this is the reason why you were born. You were born for this moment in time. Go build a boat. Tell the world about me. Now, only Noah's family got on the boat. We know that. Everybody else was lost. But you're sitting here today because of those 8 people that got on the boat and got off the boat, right? Right? We populated an entire world from 8 people. I still have to ask God about how that all works, but an entire population of a world. He doesn't need numbers. See, sometimes as church leaders, we gauge whether or not something was successful by the amount of people in the pew or the amount of people that showed up to an event. I had a lady one time, she was doing a portion of women's ministry at a previous church. She said, it was such a failure, I'm never doing this again. She had one person show up. It was an older group of ladies that were to get together and read a book. It was such a failure, I'm never doing this again. Never doing this again. What she didn't know was that the lady who did show up had called me and told me what changed her life about being there with that one person. She needed a friend in that moment, and she needed to share her heart and somebody to listen. So while this one lady over here was saying numbers matter and I failed and I'm never doing this again, the other person said, I needed this. This is why I'm here. Jesus needs our hearts. He doesn't always need our numbers. When I was in college, I went to MSU. I was there a long time because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I started as a music major, then a business major, then I ended up with a psychology degree. So I was there for a while. There was a guy that, and I don't know, some of you I think go to MSU, but it used to be called the Bears Den. It's the building where all of like the food and different things are at. I don't know what it's called now. But there was this guy outside the Bears Den every day with a megaphone, preaching every day. Rain, snow, hot, cold, didn't matter. The dude was there every single day. Now, you would think if I learned anything from Noah, I would have stopped and listened, right? Maybe this guy was like, knew something I didn't know. Nope. Every day, walked by him. Didn't listen, have still no idea what he was saying. I was busy. I needed to go to class. I was usually late. But I have no idea what he was saying. And I've thought about this guy a lot. Because when I think about walking past him every single day, is that not what people did walking past the ark? Walking past crazy Noah every single day, telling about God and how he's going to destroy the earth with this flood when it's never rained. My friends, it had never rained before. Everything was watered by mist or dew. The rivers never flooded. Like, it was perfect. But then there's this crazy guy saying it's going to rain, and all you people are going to die if you don't listen. We allow ourselves to be distracted. We allow ourselves to walk by things and not pay attention. I'm going to play a video, and I'm going to let the sound on the video do the talking. But it's kind of a crazy video, but it'll be one that you remember and one that will put the concept into place.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
Who saw the moonwalking bear the first time? Did you really, Emily? What you just watched was a replication of a study done by 2 researchers, Christopher Chabas and Daniel Simmons. And the original experiment was titled The Invisible Gorilla. And what they're studying is a concept called inattentional blindness. This concept is when we fail to notice something that's right in front of our face, that's fully visible but not expected, because we're focused on other things around us, other tasks, other objects, or events. At this point, I'm sure you're trying to figure out why I showed you this crazy video. But I learn by seeing crazy things, because it sticks in my head, and I'm like, oh, okay, the moonwalking bear thing. I'm not paying attention to what I need to be paying attention to. Now, what I'm going to say next is probably going to get some of the older people to be like, yes, they need to listen to this, nudging the younger people next to them. But what I'm going to say might actually surprise you. One of the things when people are asked, what is the most common distraction in your life? What do you think the answers are? Yep, phone. So what I did was, while I was homeschooling the kids for a few days in a row, I started to pull up on Google every study that was done about how much people spend on a screen every day. And I would just write down the numbers over and over and over and over and over. Now, I couldn't find much data above the age of 65. But in true scientific fashion, don't worry, I threw out the top number and the bottom number and averaged the rest of them. It's about as scientific as it got, folks. So my age categories were broken up between 8 and 64. This is how many hours a day people spend on a screen. TV, computer, phone, whatever. 8 to 10, 6 hours. 11 to 14, 9. 15 to 24, both average 7.5. 25 to 34, 7. 35 to 44, 6.5. 45 to 54, 6. And all of those older people out there who think that you've got your screen time under control, you don't. It's at 5 hours and 20 minutes. Now, good news for those Americans or those who, all of us now live in the United States, we rank among the bottom of the users around the world. South Africa actually ranks at the highest. Now, what I want you to hear about that is not a shocking, oh my goodness, I spend too much time on my phone. We all know we do. What I want you to understand is if you take the amount of time you're on your phone, scrolling Instagram, for those of us who are older, Pinterest and Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and the kids are laughing because Facebook is, for like the old people. It's okay, we own it. How many of you are around for MySpace? Who had a MySpace account? It was the greatest. You could customize that MySpace account like nobody's business. Okay, so we all can be honest and say that our phones distract us. How many, this is probably more for the teenagers because those older people, the notifications drive us crazy. How many wake up and look at their phone and have so many notifications on there? Nobody's gonna. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty because I can tell you when I look at my kids' phones sometimes in the morning when I pick them up, the amount of notifications that they have on there stresses me out. How are you possibly, first of all, how do you know that many people? And how are you ever going to answer any of those? The study with inattentional blindness is what are we missing that's right in front of our faces because we're looking at something else. Our phones, our screens, they can do amazing things, no doubt about it. Am I ever going to convince anybody, myself included, to put their screens away? Not a chance. Nope. But, God has called us to something greater. And I want to encourage you to understand that if we're continuing to be distracted, when probation closes, we're going to be on the wrong side of that door, my friends. And there's no second chances. This is it. This is it. We have one shot to get on the right side of that door. We can't say we were too busy on a Snapchat. What is that called? Like when you just snap each other over and over and over and over and nobody wants to break it. Come on, you know what it is. Streak, thank you. I know, I'm old, I'm sorry. I have teenagers, I should know these things. Or I was watching a really good show. Satan needs us distracted. If he keeps us distracted, he wins. He kept the people that were walking past Noah distracted. Look at the crazy guy. It's never rained. Why would he build a boat? The animals are really going to come and get on that boat. He kept them distracted. Story after story after story in the Bible where Satan does everything he can to distract the very ones Jesus needs to go. when I was in Cuba, I asked the ladies when they went home that night to tell me, to come back the next day and to tell me what gifts and talents or how you show Jesus to those around you. And then I was going to ask them to share. Because, see, it starts simple in our life. How do we show Jesus to somebody right next to us? So the ladies came back, and I asked for people to come up front. And then this lady comes up, and she takes the microphone, and she looks at me, and she says, when I left here, I didn't have any talents. I called my husband, and I said, what gifts and talents do you think God gave me? He said, he gave you none. I have no idea what you're talking about. She said, I remember the white lady told me to call a friend and ask them how they see me showing Jesus, how they see gifts and talents in my life. She said, I didn't want to call anybody because I was afraid that just like my husband, they would say to me, you have none. And I would for sure be useless like I thought that I was. So she put her phone down and she started to go to sleep, and the phone rang. And one of the other ladies had called her and said, I have no idea how to answer this question. I don't think God has given me any gifts. And the lady said, oh, but he has. And she starts sharing with this lady the things that she sees this other lady doing. She says, you know, my friend, why I'm in church. It's because of you. It's because when I came to church, you sat beside me. It's because when I was sad, you would notice. It's because when I needed a friend, you were right there. So this lady pulls out this index card, and it was front to back covered with what this other lady saw her and how she showed Jesus. A lot of times we get stuck in a place where we say, I'm not in the place to go and do big things. God didn't build me to be up front. He didn't make me to be able to do any of these things. Great. He may not have. It's true. There are some people who, when they get up here, they would rather have their toenails pulled off with pliers than to stand up here. It's hard. But that doesn't mean that God didn't give you a mission, that God hasn't set you forth on a pattern and a path to do something for him. It doesn't have to be something that is in another country, that is so great in whatever. Because I can tell you that when I ask people how they show Jesus, and when I ask other people how people show Jesus to them, the very simple answers are, they were there when I needed them. They showed up when I needed a friend. They listened to the Holy Spirit when they said, hey, that person may need some encouragement, and they sent a text or they made a call. In that video where the bear was walking through the court, and most of us didn't pay attention to it because we weren't looking for it. I'm going to ask you over the next few days to think about how you can ensure that you're not missing the boat. That you're not missing an opportunity to do something for God that he is calling you to do, whether you're 8, 45, or 75 or 80. Doesn't matter. Ask God, what is it that you need me to do right now? What am I doing right now? Because my friends, if you go to any church, you know that most churches are unified in one thing. God is coming back soon. He's coming back. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. I know that you might sit there and say, listen, my grandparents said that there wasn't much time left, and here I am sitting here. Very true. True. I've said it myself. We don't have much time. Do you want to risk whatever it is that you do on here for missing the boat? When God closed that door on that ark that day, nobody could open it again until God opened it. When God closes the door on this earth's probation, nobody will ever open it. It's done. It is finished. Ask yourself as you go through tonight, tomorrow, where do you stand if tonight is all you have? See, end of the world doesn't necessarily mean the end of any of us. I could go to sleep tonight and not wake up. You could be in a car accident. There's lots of things that can end our time here on earth. I'm going to pray, but I want you to think, if tonight is all you have, where are you going to be at? Which side of the door are you going to be standing on? And what is God asking you to do in order for him to come back? Because just like the song, I got to go for a little while, but I'm going to come back. But your job while I am gone is to tell people about Jesus. We have to do that. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we have very simple instructions to love you, to love our neighbors, and to tell everybody we know about you, to share your love with them, to share with them how much each of us need you. God, we all get distracted. We've been distracted since the beginning of time. Today's distraction may be screen time, but we know there was distractions at every period in time. Lord, please allow us to use the distractions and turn them into things that we can share Jesus, that we can share you with our friends, and we can share you with the world around us. We don't have much time. Lord, I pray that if the end is near for anybody, that they know for certainty which side of the door that they're going to be on. Are they going to be on the door where they see you when you come back and you say, welcome, my good and faithful? Or are they going to be on this side of the door where you say, I don't know who you are? I wish you would have listened to me. I wish that you would have done the things that I asked and called you to do, but instead you were too busy. I sent people in your way to share me with them, but instead you walked on by. I gave people to you that needed help, that needed to be fed, that needed to be loved, that needed to be clothed, and yet you walked on by. It's real. You're calling us, Lord, to finish the work that has long been started, to finish the job so that we can go home. Lord, I pray over each person here tonight that while this might be a little bit of a heavy topic, that we understand that we win, that the story is written. And we know if we stay on your path and follow you, we win, and we win eternal life.